Welcome back, my duelist friends. Casual Duelist here. I'm here with Time Wizard today because yesterday, well, I promised you guys a different kind of deck, right? We were wrapping up everything to do with Critter format. We were moving on. We went over Tournament Pack Season 1 or Series 1. It was released originally September 1st back in 2002, 1 month before the October 1st ban list that changes it all to treasure formats. However, due to the rulings of the websites I showed you guys yesterday, if you guys need a quick refresher, it's formatlibrary.com, Yu-Gi-Oh! Banlistarchives.com, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Fandom.com. And we use these lists, we use these sites to make sure that we are as historically accurate as possible. So these cards were just not allowed in the format. But you did have people who would play with them for that month. So that said, we wanted to build a fusion accessible deck with the fusion substitutes. So let's get the Time Wizard up in the corner. Let's get you guys a deck list. So I want to start with the fusion substitutes because they're very important to me, right? So we use 3 copies of Versailles. I'm going to try this again. We're going to use 3 copies of Goddess with the Third Eye and 2 copies of Versago the Destroyer. And the real reason is, the reason why this is a 3-2, if you look at stats, it's just 12 by 10, and this one's 11 by 9. This one's got an extra 100 points in both stats. It's just going to be the better option for us. Because if you do have to summon something and you have to get aggressive, you're going to need that. Additionally, I had to borrow the Versagos out of my Speed Duel set, as you can tell from the white sleeves. So I do got to go pick up a little bit of those, because clearly I will use them at some point. All good. The rest of the deck doesn't really change too much. You still want to play a lot of aggression. So you still play 3/7 colored fish. You definitely need the numbers. I'm surprised they didn't mess this one up, to be honest. 3 and 7 rapidly. That was going to be a nightmare. But again, it's at 1,800 points, 4-star, good stuff. Same thing, we're still going to be teching in Logins. But since we've already dipped into the tournament pack, let's grab the ultra rare out of there. Let's play 3 copies of the Mechanical Chaser and raise ourselves. This was going to be at 1,850. So again, we're not having to play any 17s. With these guys being this way, I was able to take out the Jiraigumos and the Dark Elves. There's no need for us to take that many life point hits that quick. We're going to deal with it. We're just going to use this roster. Next, we're going to need the monster that we're going to fuse. So we're going to grab Summon Skull. Now, I know that you guys know that this means Black Skull Dragon's on the way. And you'd be right. But I need you to understand that this is leagues better for me to play Summon Skull. And cheaper, by the way. Remember, he was in the starter deck Yugi. So we don't have to get the ultra rare out of Metal Raiders. But again, you guys are playing time period, so it doesn't matter. He's just a better option. He's 100 points stronger, and he's 1 tribute less. And to top all of that off, if we add Witch of the Black Forest to this deck, which you're going to want to, you can search every monster in this deck off of Witch. Okay? Everybody is 1,500 or less defense points. So, again, you can't search out Red Eyes Black Dragon in this time period. He's 24 by 2,000, or maybe... No, it should be 2,000. Because I think Dark Magician had 100 points on him for defense. So, again, this is your monster lineup. This is not bad. But, again, this is sort of an anachronistic Time Wizard deck. This isn't going to be tournament legal for Critter format tournaments. Unless you guys rule 0 that thing in. Moving on to spells. You're going to want 2 copies, Card Destruction. Not only is this going to speed you guys up, it's going to take care of a certain somebody who you don't want to see jump out of the hand. And again, it's just going to help you with building up your strategy. Again, you're going to start playing some staples. We're going to have Change of Heart, a little double duty here. We're either going to be able to take a monster attributed into the skull because we don't either have the polymerizations yet or the fusion substitutes. Or you're just getting their last defense out of the way so that the Black Skull Dragon can just go ahead and fire off. We're also going to tech in Dark Hole at 1. We're going to have 2 copies of Fisher because, again, this spell card is just great. 2 copies of Heavy Storm. Again, this is the time period. Now, I'm not sure, but I do know that this eventually goes down to 1. I'm not sure because I didn't look up the treasure format ban list yet. It might be coming, and again, that would, again, just make this a totally anachronistic mess. Next up, Monster Reborn. Again, this allows you for some really cool plays. Number one, if a fusion monster is actually fusion summoned, it is a legal target for the Reborn. Or, big or here, you guys go ahead and you do the fusion, and then you reborn the skull and have Black Skull and Summon Skull next to each other. So again, it does lead to like some really interesting plays. You're going to want to max out your polymerizations. Again, I'm using an art that just wasn't around back then because it just looks cooler. Again, back to staples, Pot of Greed, single Geki, because again, blowing the front row off of your opponent's side of the field is always good. Two Swords, there's always going to be the time where you're just going to want to reveal what's face down. I hate attacking a face down if it's turn one and I have swords. Because I could just flip it up. If it's a Man-Eater Bug, it's gonna blow itself up. But if it's Magician of Faith, if it's Mask of Darkness, it's usually going to fail to cycle a card back. And again, it's just swords, whatever. So then you can get your sword, you get your witch on the field, and then you can either tribute it into a skull, or put it in defense mode or whatever. Do what you got to do. Moving to the traps, 1 copy Mirror Force, because again, pretty standard. 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, because again, you just don't want to get messed up by your opponent's stuff. And 3 copies of Trap Hole. Now, this does come out to a 42 card main deck. Okay? If you're not into the huge main deck, obviously trim a couple of cards. You could probably trim the Versagos. By lowering the deck count, it means that you'll see either Witch, Goddess, or Summon Skull faster. Plus, you still have the card distros and the Pot of Greed. So that's always an option. You could always just trim out like the Fishers, maybe throw them into a side deck. That's up to you. Let's talk Fusion deck. And I call it Fusion deck because in the time period, we didn't have Synchro, we didn't have Xyz, Links, Pendulums, none of that. None of that new age funky stuff, right? So instead, we only had Fusion cards. And believe it or not, no limit as of yet in the formats. It comes around the time period of GX. And I think it's mostly because of Elemental Hero and the fact that when you're playing against heroes, they can just fuse so many different ways. And not having a cap on that means that your opponent just brings everything they own to the table every time. So they have an answer for everything. So first and foremost, you're going to want 3 Black Skull Dragons. I know I got one turned around. It's my great Shogun Shien. He's guest starring today because I don't own a 3rd Beast Skull. It happens. I plan on getting one in the future. It'll probably be a very easy trade. It is notable that this is also always considered an Arcfiend card. Again, this wasn't something that we knew back then. This was something that you just had to know once Arcfiends came out, and I want to say it was Dark Crisis. And they would sort of share some benefits of that. This card is huge. It's 3,200. It's just good. But there's actually another sneaky little fusion you could play. I probably wouldn't bring more than 1 copy to the table. You guys can get away with the Musician King. You can get away with the Musician King because you do play Witch of the Black Forest, and you have fusion substitutions. So you can actually play this without needing a Lady of Faith. It is not optimal. The best way to play that is to summon the Witch so that you can get the from field to graveyard search off when you fuse into this. It is a lackluster 1750, but if you already have game damage on board or you just need a little push from where you are, it's good to know that you have the option. Because again, in this time period, you would rather have the card and not need it than need the card, just simply not have it. And again, since it is a special summon, just like Black Skull Dragon, you are immune to Trap Hole. So, fun little tech right there. This is the anachronistic Time Wizard, Critter Format, Black Skull Fusion deck. Like, again, not legal for Critter Format unless you guys rule it in, just based on when the cards were available. There was 30 days between, or well, I guess 29 days, between the release and the next ban list. So, could you have seen this? Yes. Did you see this? No. Um, that's it for today, guys. I do hope that you've enjoyed this. If you have, consider supporting the channel, like, comment, sub. But do me one favor, regardless of you doing that. I want you guys to go out. I want you to take care of yourselves because you're worth it. And I need you to know that because sometimes that's the biggest part is nobody knows. I'm telling you, you're worth it. Go do something for your mental health today. And I hope to see you guys on the next video, okay? Have a great day, and let's get a good weekend, all right? Later.